Meet Covey. He's a giant stuffed COVID that is about the size of a small basketball with a face. Stead, how can you be mad at those eyes? He just wants to be loved.
Well, he was loved in my lungs for the past week and a half as I'm coming off my own diagnosis of COVID.
Apologize.
Yes, say sorry.
He says sorry. He's very sorry about that.
Well, I'm pretty sure I had the Omarion, so mine wasn't too severe.
No, Omarion is a really bad singer.
no, he's
Omicron.
Not. He's a variant. Of course he is. You didn't see his tweet that he put out?
Oh, Omarion put out a tweet.
Oh yes.
You know what? I'm waiting for
that he is not that he is not a COVID variant. That he is actually still. He was Omarion before COVID was a thing. So.
Well, I was discussing this with a friend of mine, and we said, after they run out of Greek letters, they're going to have to come up with something different, right? And please let it not be the people who name hurricanes, because you know what we could have? COVID variant Karen.
That would be quite fitting, though.
No, I'm just saying, how amazing would COVID Karen be?
It would be, it'd probably be perfect because it'd be a whole lot of bluster and not a whole lot of bite, so nobody would actually get sick from it.
What do you have to say about that? Covey agrees. The giant stuffed COVID, the giant COVID abides. Look at this, like, seriously, look at the size of that thing.
Yeah.
Why is it so big? And why does it have a face? And why does it look sad?
Because they knew you'd buy it. Right?
Yeah, they got me on that one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this buffoonery can only mean one thing. It is time once again for the worst 120 minutes in all of sports. Yes, it is time for the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. I'm joined, as always, by my faithful compatriot in all things podcasting. No, not the giant COVID. That would be my producer and co-host, Stead. I know you're getting over a bout with COVID. How you feeling, my brother?
I'm feeling fine. I still have this once every 3-hour cough where I'll cough about 3 times. So that's enough for them to say I have to stay at home. So I'll just keep on giving my little until it's gone. But hopefully in the next probably next 24 hours, I should be shipshape, no problem at all.
My grandmother had a remedy for the cough. It involved bourbon.
Yeah, but bourbon and honey works really well. Yeah. A little bit of lime juice.
Apparently, every remedy that she had for anything involved brown liquor.
Well,
it would explain a lot. So I'm just going to go with that. We are also joined for the first time by a new guy introducing to the podcast, the professor, Dr. Kowalski. How goes it, sir?
It goes well, Mike. It goes well. Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yes. Matt's going to join us and talk a little bit of African Cup of Nations, some Liverpool, and for right now, he's going to hang out for a little bit. Before we get rolling and started with the discussion, I need to take a moment. My grandfather passed on Sunday at the ripe old age of 98. Can't be too sad. He had a great life. I endeavor, even after 40 some odd years of life, to grow up at some point in time to be half the man that he was. He was born in Oklahoma in 1923. He survived the Depression, eventually made his way to New Jersey, where he met his wife of more than 50 years, Addie. They had 3 children. uh, 7 grandkids, and 9 great-grandchildren. He fought in the segregated army of the Pacific back in World War II. As a vet, it always pained me that my grandfather fought in the war and was not, until the day that he died, was never happy with or proud of his service to this nation because of the way that it came. But he came back from World War II and said to my grandmother, I want to go back to college and I want to go to law school. And she said, yeah, all right, I'll support you. But when you get done going to college and law school, I want to go back and finish high school. So he went back, he finished undergrad and graduate law school at Rutgers and became the in-house counsel for Bell Telephones and was admitted to the Supreme Court bar at one point in time before I was born. And to hear the story told, he showed up and the suit that he had didn't fit, so he had to borrow a suit from his brother and was admitted to the Supreme Court bar wearing a borrowed suit. Throughout my life, I am the man that I am because of what he told me to be, for better or worse. One of the great stories, and the last one that I'll tell, was all throughout graduate school, I lived with him, and he used to grade he would correct my papers for me. And one time I was taking a class and I wrote a paper. It was it was my Western history class. I wrote a paper and I gave it to him to grade, and he gave it back to me and all that. He made all his marks. He corrected my grammar. And at the bottom it said, I don't know what you're talking about, but I do know you're wrong. And that was the greatest compliment that the man ever paid to me, because if he didn't know what I was talking about, there was a possibility I might have been right. Later on, he told me he knew I absolutely was not right. He didn't know what I was talking about, but he knew I was wrong. He was a man, he would always tell you about yourself, but he challenged you to be better. So on this occasion, I do want to give a big send-off, a cheers to Chauncey Barrett. God bless you. May you rest in power, sir. Thank you very much. All right, enough of that sad stuff. Instead, we're about to welcome on our good friend with the Batmobile, Los. And he appears. Los, you have El Gato. I have COVID, the giant COVID.
I do have the Gato. Gato's right over here. She's just like she's been a little antsy.
But why is El Gato a female? Shouldn't it be La Gata?
Gato is just what you call
a cat.
Cat, yeah, it's just what you call a cat. So, but yeah, she's great. But she can be a real pain in the neck sometimes. And with the cold weather that we got, yes, we have cold weather. We're in the 40s tonight.
Oh wow!
So yeah, I know.
We were in the teens the last couple of days.
No, not us. No. Mm-hmm. No, we're in 75 for the high tomorrow. So we'll be back.
Poor baby.
We'll be back up to sandals and shorts again.
Poor babies. Poor babies. As we dig out from yet another snowstorm. So Los said this week was supposed to be the North London Derby.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
Somehow, and I'm sure I will give you both an opportunity to correct me where I'm wrong. But after multiple suspensions, injuries, and one positive COVID test, Arsenal found themselves down to 12 senior players. So on Thursday, they petitioned the Premier League to have the North London Derby postponed, which was granted on Saturday. Now, the way that it is told to me is that the Premier League will consider any request for a postponement that involves a positive COVID test. Now,
Correct.
the only player at that time that had tested positive for COVID was Martin Odegaard. There were a number of injuries as a result and a suspension. Granit Xhaka, as Granit Xhaka does, got himself sent off in the first leg of the Manchester City Cup semifinals, which ended up as a draw for Arsenal in the away leg. So we can talk about the fact that they're well set up for the return leg, but they suffered a couple of injuries and found themselves down to a reported 12 players.
Well, you only need 11 to play.
And
That's why you
The
have
rule is,
U23. That's why you have reserve. I'm sorry. I mean, look, I'm sorry, Los. I'm not going to set this up for us to have some great banter because it's a load of crap. I'm sorry. They should not have canceled that game. It's ridiculous. And it's also, I mean, look, I have to agree with Antonio Conte. This whole cancellation of games is an absolute mess. It is and the inconsistency of it being applied is really the most appalling thing. And I mean, I could say humorously for me, it's funny how it's inconsistently applied when it doesn't serve Spurs very well. It seems to be applied, and when it doesn't serve Spurs, then it's not applied. So it's really not. It's been handled very poorly by the Premier League, especially with AFCON. AFCON is not a reason for this, especially from an Arsenal perspective. It's not like we're losing Mo Salah and Sadio Mane. We're losing Mohamed El-Neni, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who may never play for the team again and has heart problems, so he may never play again, and Thomas Partey, who, like it or not, his tenure at Arsenal hasn't been the greatest so far, and he has been in and out of the first team for quite a while anyway. And as what I've said on this podcast this is what year 4 we've been doing this, Mike, how play young players when they get opportunities. This was a chance to play your young players. And look, yeah, you're fighting for every game is important. I get all that, but there's no circumstance that Arsenal is currently going through that is not indicative of every other team in the Premier League that has various challenges that they have to go through. So I don't blame Arsenal either. I mean, Matt, for you joining our show, I'm the first Arsenal fan on this show, but I don't blame Arsenal for asking. There's nothing wrong with asking. This is really an issue with the Premier League and the Premier League's poor handling of canceling and playing games. It's reflects very poorly, and the management has been. I mean, it's like they got Mike Dean running it up there. I mean, I don't really know what to say. But Los, before I steal all of your thunder,
that explains a lot
because yeah, I was. I mean, even all the Arsenal buddies, we were like, oh yeah, this is great. We got away with one there because we know we didn't deserve it.
It isn't that the case. It's like Arsenal went and really took to heart the idea that a closed mouth gathers no foot.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to throw it up against the wall and see if it sticks, and then we're going to be shocked when it does.
Yeah, like,
I have to,
they're like, oh really? How?
yeah. Like at that point in time, I'm walking off. I'm declaring victory. I am strutting down the street like Sherman Hemsley. I'm doing the Carlton. I'm walking like Deacon Fry. Amen. You remember that one? Remember Deacon Fry?
When he would double dutch.
I'm gonna walk away looking like Sherman Hemsley with a smile the size of Garfield with a plate of lasagna that I got away with that one. But on the other side of it is, Los, y'all actually had so as Spurs supporter and our Spurs correspondent, you guys actually probably were like the first team to deal with COVID in that extreme this year.
Rather extreme. Yeah, it was a different jurisdiction, but we effectively were kicked out of the third tier Europa Cup, UEFA Cup. We were effectively kicked out of that because we couldn't field a team. We had 8 to 10 players with COVID. Looked to reschedule. I believe it was the Leicester game that was we were looking to reschedule.
Yep.
Leicester, I think, an EPL wouldn't let us out of that, and so we never got a chance to get our and on top of that, let's be honest, the team from France, Rennes, they didn't want to reschedule. They were good. They were through. They didn't care. So it was a different authority, so different set of rules. But yeah, we got struck with the COVID bug, literally, and it affected our tournament play. We're, it's okay, whatever. I mean, I think they're still fighting it in the courts, but I mean, it's at this point, it's like kind of a lost cause. It's kind of let that go, and let's move on to other pressing issues. We got 2 other things we're fighting for this year. We're still in the FA Cup, and we are looking for a spot in the top 4. And it looks like we have a good shot at it. I mean, if you look at the fact we have so many games in hand, should we run that part of the table, we're number 3. Mm-hmm. So things can happen for us, and you just gotta finish it on the field, though. That's what it all boils down to. You got to win on the field. Getting back to the North London Derby for just a second, the ruling for anyone who is watching the podcast and isn't aware of what happened there. I can't imagine you wouldn't be aware if you're watching this podcast, because who else is going to watch this podcast except someone who already knows what's going on? But
even those people don't watch this podcast.
Yeah, no, there you go. So essentially, you need 13 outfield players and a goalkeeper in order to participate in an English Premier League game, and Arsenal didn't have that. So they petitioned the league, and the league said, okay. And that's the way it goes. And it's I got a saying that I use a lot, and I'm sure other people do too. It's don't hate the player, hate the game. So the game was, can they put it out there and would it work? And they put it out there and it worked, and they got a reprieve. So now the question is, well, what's fair then when they replay? I mean, we have Shaka, right, with the red card. He's serving a suspension. Okay, so the question is, should he be suspended when we actually take on Arsenal? Because he was supposed to be suspended before. So shouldn't he serve that suspension when we play him, when they play again coming up? I mean, that's a legit question. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're just going to say EPL.
We'd rather play you without
the next matches are when the suspension served, and that's just the way it's going to be. I'm sure that's what EPL is going to decide to do. So anyway, that's where Spurs is at. We got the game with Leicester tomorrow, make up from week 17, match day 17, and they're hurting. They're missing a lot of their guys. Tomorrow could be a pretty interesting match. I saw a prediction on one of my favorite places I like to go to see what's happening with team news, Sports Mole on from the UK, and he predicts 1-2, Leicester 1 and Spurs 2 tomorrow. So I like that result. I'll take that result if that's what we get. But again, you got to play. You got to finish on the field. We got a chance to get 3 points tomorrow. So that's the goal. That's always the goal.
So one of the things is, Stead, amongst other things, Arsenal just agreed to a loan deal for Pablo Mari, which means yet another senior player going out on loan. So you just loaned out a player, but you're also going to file a petition to not play the second leg of this League Cup semifinal because you don't have enough players.
Mm-hmm.
pardon me if I'm a little bit confused by that.
Well, let me ask you this. I believe, though, the League Cup is not going to be filed with the Premier League. It's going to be the FA. So it's a different group of people who are going to be
Well,
making
this
determination.
just makes it worse because now we have, and Los is correct. You have UEFA for European competitions saying one thing. You've got the FA saying another. Now you've got the Premier League saying a different thing. Now you've got them filing a petition with the FA who could rule on a third thing.
Personally, though, I don't blame Arsenal for doing it. I mean,
I don't blame them for doing it, but
give it a whirl. I mean, it's kind of, I don't think I don't think that they shouldn't have asked. I mean, the player they loaned out, I've never seen a player who's 6'2" and probably weighs about 175 get bullied as much as Pablo Mari does by opposing attackers. So I'm not saying that's a huge loss. So I don't think we need to see, somebody who's as unathletic as Harry Kane being made to look like an absolute supreme athlete because Pablo
You're
Mari.
not an Eagles fan and you don't remember Hank Basket.
Harry, say again.
You're not an Eagles fan and you don't remember when Hank Basket played receiver for us.
I certainly do remember when Hank Basket played receiver for you guys. Don't forget, I root for a team that's in the same conference. And so
6'2" and weighed 175 at a time when I was 6'2" and weighed 175. And I had realized a long time ago that I was physically not built to play NFL wide receiver.
Yeah.
So I will give this man credit on two things. Number one, you were a doggone stick. And you hung around the NFL for a couple of years being a stick and you didn't get yourself broken in half. And number two, you did go home with a Playboy Playmate.
Yeah,
rode the pine the entire game
player,
and then got ridden by a Playboy Playmate. So cheers to Hank Basket. You are my hero.
But I will
never
say
thought
this,
that reference.
I don't think though, I directly assume that the FA is going to say no and that they're going to make them play that leg. And to be honest, I'm like, if I was Arsenal, I'm not sure I would want to do anything that would hasten the chance for Mo Salah and Sadio Mane to return from AFCON. I would try to get that game done as quickly as possible. Because to be honest, look, this team was not built for any sort of cup winning anything this year. If Arsenal have a chance to steal one to get to a cup final this year, it's going to be in this final against a Liverpool team that is going through something right now and has some key components missing and looking like one of their third of the big three attack potentially leaving. So there's a chance there. There's a chance. Arsenal can't stack up a Liverpool as far as talent's concerned. They can't. They just don't. So take what you can get. But I think if anything, it's going to simply show that. The challenge that these clubs have to face when you're dealing with, especially in the Premier League, because this is one of the few federations where there's sort of two umbrellas that are overseeing take championship football in England is still very, very massive. So you have two umbrellas overseeing that, and you have the UEFA umbrella. And you're trying to answer all these questions. You're trying to get squads for various things. You're trying to fill out paperwork for various things. It's got to be a load. So I wouldn't be surprised if the email that they sent or the letterhead they sent, they simply just change the address and send the same message to try to see if they can get this postponed. Which I personally don't think that's such a good idea because I wouldn't want to play Liverpool down the line. But it's I don't think there's an answer to this. I just don't. I mean, the last thing we want is this to turn into something that FIFA oversees, because we all know how that's going to go. So it is what it is, unfortunately.
You brought up a number of good points. First one I've got to ask: did Arsenal write the email in crayon?
Crayon.
I'm serious. Did they write the email in crayon, like big red crayon? I need help.
It worked. I mean, it worked.
Please excuse Johnny from PE.
Yeah, he's got a stomach ache.
Matt, you have a little bit of a dog in this fight, because here's a chance for y'all to get one over. How happy would Liverpool, even down a Sadio Mane and Mo Salah, and he's not going to play, but Joel Matip, how happy would they be to play Arsenal right now, given the state that Arsenal was in, and possibly overturn this and get to a cup final?
Well, considering the fact that the league is probably not a reality, yeah, concentrating on the two domestic cups and the Champions League that's really where we have to concentrate. I do agree with Armstead, though. It probably behoove Arsenal to play us now as opposed to down the line, because if Mane and Salah are available, and look, Klopp's not a fool, they'll start in that second leg. Make no mistake about that. And if he can manage to escape AFCON without serious injury, probably Naby Keita, because when he's played this year and he's healthy, he's been quite good. And, Armstead's right. I mean, this is not me throwing Arsenal under the bus, but we're two clubs at very different stages.
Absolutely.
In our development, and that's just facts.
All right, so Los, I'm going to give you the last chance because it was Arsenal who canceled. So, yes, I know that we are all indoors, but here's your chance to throw some final shade. Go through it for it.
Well, like I said, there are a couple memes that went about. There's the one where the kid standing in the doorway of the parents' bedroom, and they replaced the kid's face with the Arsenal shield. And it says, "Mommy, I'm too scared to play Tottenham." So, oh, and there's the other one about the crayon thing where I need to please excuse Arsenal from PE this week. They're not feeling well, or something like It says it is what it is. We all know that. Well, a lot of us feel this game should have been played, including Stead, who has a dog in this fight. And
several other Arsenal fans too.
And several Arsenal fans too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think any of them really want to see this game postponed because it just doesn't look right, and they rather have played it. The question regarding the under 23s, I think there's a rule where they have to train with the top tier team for a week before they're able to be added to the roster. So I don't think that any of them had that already going on. They weren't training with the first team. So I don't think they were able to do that. Had that happened, they had a couple of guys from the U23s practicing for a week with them, then the game could have gone on. But I think it's a pretty strict rule they have regarding the under 23s in the Premier League.
Yeah, so. But I think if Arsenal hadn't planned on making that ask, I'm sure that they already were, because it's not like they weren't planning on losing 3 players anyway to AFCON. So I agree, but I mean, if they were in that situation, then that shows we've already kind of canned management outside of the manager at Arsenal, and it would just go to solidify our opinion that they really don't know what they're doing over there.
It's mismanagement, no doubt. You got your injured players, you got the guys going to AFCON, you got the guy who got himself booked and sent off, and then you decide to go ahead and, hey, we're going to loan some players out. Oh, hey, by the way, we just loaned some players out. Guess what? We're under our total now. Can we get a
no? They loaned one, and then they canceled the contract for another one, so they're down 2 players because Kolasinac left today.
So it is mismanagement happening there. A lot of Spurs fans are upset about it. They feel that Arsenal just kind of wussed out on this meeting. Hey,
but I really think that if any other team was in a similar position, I can't say they wouldn't have done the same thing.
Right. So, it's like I said before, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Exactly.
It's what the rule says. Yeah. They went by the rule, and by the rule, here's what it is. Yeah. It stinks. It smells terrible. It looks terrible. The optics look terrible. Anybody from the outside would say, well, why didn't have enough guys? I mean,
Yeah.
don't they have like 20 some odd people on the roster and they couldn't field 13
Absolutely.
plus one?
But
you know?
also too, I don't like the precedent that's been set by this. And I'm concerned that moving forward, when you have clubs that have rosters with the level of depth that go well beyond the teams that we support, Los, when you're looking at teams like City, United, Liverpool, where they have much more depth in their rosters, but there may be a player or two that they really want because they're playing each other, they're playing Chelsea or something, and then all of a sudden you see this type of shenanigans that happen again. I'm worried that I hope that doesn't become a part of the new landscape that we see post-COVID.
Can of worms opened.
Yeah. But that, you know what though, Los, you'll see Arsenal fans and Spurs fans standing arm in arm looking at the other teams in the big four, big six, like being like, hey, wait a minute.
All right, Los, before we let you go, I know you're wearing your Real Madrid kit today.
Hala Madrid.
Let's talk real briefly about the Classico or the mini the faux Classico. I don't know what to call it. This Supercopa match between or Supercopa semifinal in between Barcelona and Real Madrid. Real Madrid 3-2 winners after extra time. I think the bigger story and the question that I gotta ask you, I know that you're a Madridista. I know it's all Hala Madrid. Do you think that right now this is the best shot that Barcelona possibly could have thrown at Madrid and they still came up wanting?
I think this is where you're going to see Barcelona for the rest of this season unless they make some sort of transfer this month. But Barcelona is again only a fraction of the team they used to be with Messi and company. But Madrid is also only the fraction of the team that they once were without Cristiano Ronaldo. The super matches we had with Messi on one side and Ronaldo on the other, and let's see these guys clash and who can come out on top. They were great while we had them, but nothing lasts forever. So here we are with teams that aren't as good as those teams, and yet we see Real Madrid is still finding a way to stay on top of the table, and Barcelona is now floundering in a place where they aren't so familiar at being within the last 10 years because they've had Messi for a very, very long time and been very productive and very good with Messi as part of their team. But they're in shambles. We know about this because it's been chronicled. Their salary shambles. They were looking at, I think, picking up, was it Phil Foden, I think, from Manchester City, and that fell through because there's no money. So
I'm sorry, it was Ferdinand Torres.
Sorry, Ferdinand Torres.
He's with them now, though. He's with them now. They were able to. Yeah.
Oh, they figured it out.
They were able to register him. Yes.
They negotiated.
There you go.
They got
another
player.
That's a nice acquisition for them. So, right now they're sixth place. They could make a move for top four. I don't see them doing much more than that, to be honest, this season. But this is the shape of La Liga. Real Madrid is the perennial team to beat. And so, but this year they don't have Barcelona really to contend with. They have other teams that are vying for the top spot. You got Sevilla up there. You got they played this the Supercopa final against Atletico Bilbao, which won the tournament last year. And so Real Madrid came in and won it this year, reclaiming their status as one of the best teams in Spain. So we'll see what happens, but I don't expect anything dynamic to happen with Barcelona. I expect them to stay pretty much in the 4, 5, 6 spot. I don't anticipate them being 1, 2, or 3. I anticipate them being outside the top 3. Will they get Champions League? It's possible, but it's also very possible they might not get it at all. They might not even get Europa. So we'll see what happens.
All right, Los, I want to thank you for coming on and joining us.
Rock and roll.
Rock and
Happy
roll.
New Year, people.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Covey abides.
Oh, by the way, yeah, you're COVID. Yeah. It's my birthday Tuesday.
Happy birthday. Happy
Getting there.
birthday to you.
Getting there. Thank
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. All right. Yes, happy birthday to Los. We'll have you back on hopefully next week, if not in the next couple of weeks, talk a little bit more about Spurs and La Liga. So Los, as always, thanks.
Rock and roll, people. Take it easy.
For anybody listening, it is really right now on the video chat like the definition of too many guys, as I now have 8 tiles up in front of me of people who I need to acknowledge. So I do want to acknowledge Larry, the insurance guy who's come on. He's going to talk a little bit of Manchester City with us a little later. Byron Robb is joining us. He's going to get into the Bundesliga and the Deutsche Pokal and the just utter buffoonery that happened there today. I think London Sean might be on because his tile appeared, but he hasn't, which can only mean either he's there and he doesn't want us to see him, or he just hasn't figured out technology yet. But what do we want from the Brits? But next, we are going to turn our attention to our good friend Celtic Cam, who is going to give us the report from the land of enchantment that is Scotland. Cam, how goes it, my friend?
Good evening, guys. Going well?
Yes, I have a giant stuffed COVID.
Having real COVID, right?
Not real COVID, but this is COVID. He's a COVID that's the size of a basketball.
It's the most random thing I've ever seen.
But it's great. It has eyes. Yes, I've been told that I need to describe this for people who are listening. I have a stuffed COVID with eyes that is about the size of a basketball. Who knows why? It's a thing. It exists. Why not? So, Cam, it's been interesting up in Scotland. Scotland got back into the running this weekend. We had our first round of games since before New Year's. Let us know what's going on in the SPL and the Land of Enchantment.
Yeah, so a few big things this week. I think the biggest one for me, which Sean has just very pleasantly pointed out, is Rangers dropping 2 points today. Tied with Aberdeen. Ryan Kent was sent off. Fantastic video of Scott Brown loving Ryan Kent being sent off. So that today has put it into us being behind them by about 4 points at this point in time. So things are really starting to heat up coming up to that Old Firm game on February 2nd. The other big item is the league top goal scorer, Tony Watt, who used to be a Celtic player. He scored that famous goal against Barcelona. He has actually moved from Motherwell to Dundee United. So Motherwell doing a really odd bit of business there. It showed today against their game in Ross County, which they lost 3-1. Ross County was playing down a man from the 59th minute on. And they still lost that game. So I think, Tony Watt moving to Dundee United, I think is a really big move there. Again, not really sure why Motherwell would sell him partway through the season, especially when they're in 4th right now and doing, better than they've done in previous years. So that was definitely an odd bit of business from my part. But yeah, some big games coming up. Apart from, the Old Firm, Celtic have some big games against teams like Motherwell, Aberdeen, things like that. So those are the really 2 big things that have come out of Scotland this week.
All right, so let us know where we stand as we head into February and we get ever and ever so close. And we will talk way more about this when it happens, but we are edging that much closer to the split, the great divide, the separation. where do we sit right now? Who's in, who's out, who's moving, who's on the good side, who's on the bad side? What in the world is going on with that?
Yeah, so right now in the top 6, we've got some of the usual players, Rangers, Hibs, Hearts, Celtic, Aberdeen, but then we also have Motherwell, as I mentioned, who's sitting in 4th right now. Those kind of 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th places are all a couple points apart from each other. So, moving towards the split is not long from now. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that middle of the table kind of shuffles around. I'm looking at it now. St. Mirren in 9th is at 22 points, Livingston at 23, Dundee United at 25, and then Aberdeen, who's in 6th at 28, and Hibs at 29. So, that middle of the table is a pretty packed area right now. So I think we're going to be seeing some really good games with Dundee United now that they have Tony Watt. Aberdeen played a really strong game today. They were, at the end of the game, they were the better team today. So I think we're going to see some really, really interesting games with these kind of mid-tier teams in the SPFL right now.
How big was that draw for Aberdeen?
That was massive. I mean, not only for Aberdeen, obviously, for Celtic, but, to pull a draw from that situation. Rangers were playing, their first team, no really significant injuries out. Morelos is still playing. Haji is still playing. The first team players were still there. So, Aberdeen just looked like an attacking force today. And of course I love Scott Brown. I got to give him credit. I don't know if it was him today or what, but watching the game, he really seemed to be spurring the team on. He understands how Rangers plays, so I think that was a big element of the game today. And that tie is a game changer for the table. As I say, that puts us within 4 points of that, of overtaking Rangers. So really, really good game today.
We got a couple of weeks before we need to get into the Old Firm and make plans to watch it. We'll discuss that offline. Any interesting transfer news as regards the Scottish League that we should be aware of this week?
Yeah, so there has been some very quiet talk on the Rangers side about bringing in Shinji Kagawa. He's 32 now. Interestingly enough, plays in Japan. So it looks like they're kind of looking at the model that we've kind of put to use here. And they're looking at maybe poaching some players from Japan. But that one it's a smaller rumor, but I mean, that would be big if we had someone of that caliber in the Scottish Premier League. As I mentioned last week, we are still chasing this Iranian international, Mehdi Gaedi, I believe his name is. So we're still chasing him. Those are really the 2 big ones apart from the Tony Watt transfer. But, if Rangers are able to get someone like Kagawa on their team, he's, as I say, he's only 32, so he's up there a little bit, but for a young team like Rangers and for the kind of exposure that would give, I think, to Scottish football, I think that's a pretty big deal.
All right.
Can I ask Cam a real quick question?
Oh, go ahead, Larry.
What's the deal with Ross County? I'm looking at the table here, and usually when you got a team that's so far down in the standings, their goal differential is much worse than theirs is. I mean, they're second to last in against goals, but they're 4th in the whole league in goals for. Is their defense just that horrible, or their goalie just not good? It just seems, I don't know. That doesn't add up there.
Yeah. So over the past few years, they've been selling off some defensive players, and they don't have this. I believe they have a very young back line. So I'm thinking, it's probably something to do with not having that experience that they had years ago. I mean, I'll be honest, Ross County is kind of a middle bottom, table team usually. But I think you're absolutely right to pick up on the fact that their backline has, really been struggling this season. Even last season, they had a really, really weird goal differential, if I'm correct in thinking that. But you're absolutely right. It's a very, very weird situation, but it's, that backline, I think, is just really, really young and inexperienced, and they can't handle some of these, bigger games with teams like Rangers, Hibs, Hearts, things like that.
Do you see something like that changing in the next year or two where they start getting experience and playing together? Because it seems like they got the final third figured out, just not the back third.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I think, I'm trying to remember who the manager is for Ross County right now, but I think he's been there for some time, and I think he's trying to overhaul the team. take that chance and bring some younger, faster, players that are willing to drive for a bit more. At the end of the day, I hate to say it, but a lot of these small teams just don't have the same financial aspects that Rangers, Celtic, even Aberdeen and Hibs have. So, for them, it's about making these really specific, very calculated transfer purchases. And I just don't know if Ross County is, financially and in terms of the scouting staff they have, I just don't know if that's something they're going to be able to pull out of very quickly. Personally, I see that being an issue for them, probably for at least another season or two. Again, it's unfortunate. This is how Scottish football is. They just don't have the money to bring in, really necessarily established players. They have to bring in these younger players and hope it works out a lot of the time.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks.
Yep.
All right. Before I close it off with Cam, London Sean, I know this is your favorite segment of the show each week. Did you have any questions, comments, or concerns directed at our correspondent from Beyond the Wall? Oh, and he's muted. That is the best part about this.
Oh, here we go. That's better. Here we are. Good evening, gents. No questions for Cam this week. Obviously, Rangers spoilt this particular section by only drawing today against Aberdeen. The only thing I'd say is I'll give a shout out to my friend Alistair, who lives up there, who is a big St Johnstone fan and is suffering very badly. So don't worry, Alistair, you'll turn it round, hopefully.
All right, Cam, before we let you go, give us something that we should be watching for in the Scottish League this weekend.
Spectators.
Yes, spectators would be nice as well. Beyond spectators, what should we be watching for?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be really keeping an eye on Dundee United over the coming weeks in Motherwell. I think we may end up seeing a little bit of a transition in terms of, Dundee moving out the table a bit, and Motherwell after today's game, it just seems like, they've lost that attacking prowess. So I'm going to be really interested to see if Motherwell starts to fall and Dundee starts to climb again.
All right, my friend, good to talk to you as always. We'll get you back on next week to give us the best from the land of enchantment, the North.
Thank you,
The
gentlemen.
greatness that is Scotland. Celtic Cam, as always. And we're going to go across the channel into Europe and visit with our good friend Byron Rob. Rob, how you doing this evening?
Doing pretty good. Just new computer built. Still working out the kinks. Hence why I had headset on today. But as long as I sound good, that's all that matters.
You sound 10 times better than you did last week. So we appreciate that. I can actually understand every word that you're saying.
Dankeschön.
Why are you talking about my shins?
I don't know.
Okay. It was a wild round in the Pokal this week. We already talked about the fact that Bayern was out, and we had some big games. Dortmund goes out. It's going to be the first time in 1,374 years that neither Bayern nor Dortmund will be competing in the finals of the. What in all that is good is going on in Germany with this doggone cup right now?
Oh man, let me tell you. Once again, Dortmund, had revealed themselves to be the pretenders they are. They want to talk the game, how and they want to talk about how Bayern are winning the league and all that stuff. But then they can't even beat St. Pauli. Now, St. Pauli is a really good team, especially in the second Bundesliga. But still, you have Haaland, you have Bellingham, you have Brandt, you have like legit stars on the team, and they go down to St. Pauli. Now, mind you, like it'll be the first time in 26 years that there will be a new winner of the Pokal, because all these teams are out. Like the Bayerns are out, Dortmund's out, Bremen, Wolfsburg, among others, right? Nuremberg, Kaiserslautern. So it's going to be exciting. Pokal fever is magic. And actually my favorite part is because Hamburg beat Cologne today as well. There's a potential to have a Hamburg derby in the next round, which would be Hamburg versus St. Pauli. They hate each other, and I hope that there are fans in the stands for that because it's going to be electric. It's going to be must-see TV. And you know what? This is day one of the Pokal. We still got another day to go. I mean, there's still a lot more to go here. So I'm excited. Even though my Bayern are out, because damn Gladbach, I tell you, there's still shenanigans going to happen. Got Gladbach who plays Hanover tomorrow, and Gladbach's on reeling as well. Leipzig should push on through versus a Hansa Rostock, and then you got the Berlin Derby, Hertha Berlin versus Union Berlin in the Olympic Stadion. No fans. Well, I think there's gonna be some fans, but not full capacity. That should be must see tomorrow. You guys should watch it. If anything, just to watch the beautiful stadium that is the Olympic Stadion. It's beautiful. It's marvelous, historic, and it's also the site of the Pokal final. So it's going to be fantastic. And with other potential Bundesliga ramifications, primarily for form, you got Hoffenheim and Freiburg who finish off the night tomorrow in Pokal action. So it's exciting. I love it. I can't get enough of it. And it's fun to see a giant killing happen, as all you guys know from loving the FA Cup.
So if you're watching or listening, I got to give credit to Larry, insurance guy, who just went off screen and put on his RB Leipzig jersey. So he is Pokal ready. Talk about the Berlin Derby. I mean, this is social, this is political. This goes back to World War II. I'm looking at the professor up in my upper right-hand corner. We studied all of this Cold War history together back when we were in graduate school together. We've got East and West Berlin going at it. Rob, give me a prediction. Who comes out of this on the better side?
I think Union makes it, because I think
he's going for the Eastern.
Yeah, they're just a better team.
Shut up, you doggone communist, Matt.
No. Union Berlin is a community club. They are a fantastic club. They're in
East Berlin, Soviet bloc.
They're in the Europa Conference. They're actually playing in Europe, unlike Hertha Berlin, who threatened relegation at one point last season. So here's the thing: they need to give it their all here, because it's obviously a derby, but they have a big matchup coming up against Bayern Munich on Sunday. So they got to be careful how much you want to put into this, because they got a big matchup with Bayern, and then they're not going to be fully rested, and Bayern will be fully rested. So that should be exciting to see what their strategy is. I think when you pull it out, I really do. I think they're gonna win like 3-1. I think they're that good on defense, and I think they'll score a couple goals. They'll get amped up.
All right. So second to last question I've got for you. We have seen recently some U.S. men's national team players make their way over to Germany. Can you give us an update on American expatriates playing in the Bundesliga and how they're doing?
Okay, so Ricardo Pepi started. He had his first start for Augsburg. He played okay. Some people say he didn't do that good. He kind of shanked one a little bit, but the official looked like it was going to be, if he scored, it probably would have been called offside via VAR. So Pepe, it's his first start. I mean, we're not expecting miracles over here, and it's Augsburg, right? So, he's only going to only have so many chances. Then you got Gio Reyna's not back yet for Dortmund. Marco Rosa said that he looks like he lost something with the injury. So he's still a ways off, apparently. He was supposed to be back in January, and he still has not suited up, really. He didn't even touch the pitch. So I think he's in training, but still up in the air with him. Chris Richards started in over the weekend, and the back three on the left side did okay, but they lost to Union in Berlin, and they scored a goal. Hoffenheim scored a goal, but it was an own goal. Sorry, that was it. But the latest update is, it's not official yet, but it looks like it's happening. Is Justin Che, who was at Bayern on loan from FC Dallas. It looks like he's going to get an 18-month loan to Hoffenheim, which is a very long loan. So he'll get the half season here. He's a right back, but can play a little wing back here and there. So he'll get the half season to kind of settle into Germany, even though he's been in Germany for a little bit as well already with Bayern. And then he'll play. He'll get some major playing time next season. Don't look for him to really make an impact this season, but the Americans are coming still. There's something about the Bundesliga where the league and the owners and the fans and the boards take chances on Americans for many reasons. They're cheaper than other European players, and they like the way they're conditioned, especially from quality academies like FC Dallas, who do produce quality talent. Obviously got Chris Richards there right now. You got Brian Reynolds over at Roma, who's kind of teetering on whether he's going to Belgium or not. Because in the age of COVID, we had to watch the nickel and dimes, and yep, there you go. Lift up the COVID. Yep. So the money's a little bit tight. So you need to find value in the market, and America in the US is one of the prime spots to do it. And there is proven track record, obviously, of Americans in Germany, like Gio Reyna, like Pulisic, like those type of players, and who have made quality impacts. So it's a coming. I guarantee in the future more will be coming through the ranks from America to Germany, because they will get playing chances, they will get time, and so it's encouraging.
All right, we'll get you out of here on this one. What should we be watching for this weekend in the Bundesliga? We know that it's on ESPN Plus, so give us the games that we should be streaming when we're not doing anything like talking to the family or anything like that.
All right, so I have three games. The first one is Leipzig-Wolfsburg, and the reason I say that is because Leipzig are on the climb. They're only 3 points away from the last Champions League spot. At one point, they were very, very far down the table, but the middle of the table has kind of compressed a little bit, and so they're now getting some wins here. So, and Wolfsburg is trying to fight to stay out of relegation, or even the conversation of relegation. So they're gonna have to give it their all here. But Leipzig are at home, and I think they're really gonna win that matchup. So and they're gonna make the Champions League spots a conversation all over again. Then you got Hoffenheim and Dortmund. Dortmund play at Hoffenheim. Will Dortmund, will they come back from this awful loss to St. Pauli? Will they bounce back? I don't know. I mean, Hoffenheim is a good team, but they don't have the stars that Dortmund have. So, but then again, the problem is Dortmund don't play as a team. It seems like they've been relying on Haaland and Bellingham to bail them out plenty of times. So that's going to be interesting as well. And then Gladbach and Union, because once again, Gladbach is teetering as well. Honestly, if there was fans in the stands, I think Adi Hutter would have been fired, because he was brought in to do much better with the squad, and he's done nothing with it. And honestly, I think even without the fans, if they lost to Bayern a couple weeks ago, then he really would have been fired, because Bayern almost had nobody on the roster. I mean, they had a decent squad, but they didn't have like their major players, and so they lost to Bayern that way. I think Hutter would have been sacked. So if Union get points on the Gladbach, it's going to be really, really interesting. That seat is going to get really, really hot. But then again, the problem is that Gladbach are one of those teams who don't have a ton of cash because domestic revenues not coming in. So if you fire Adi Hutar, are you going to be able to pay a salary and then pay his replacement? So they might be stuck with him for the season, even though they're going to be stinking up the league. So those are three games I highly suggest.
All right, well, my friend, good to talk to you as always. We'll have you back on next week, and we'll talk a little bit more about Germany and the goings on in Deutschland. Matt, don't be mad that we talked to a German fan and we ignore Poland, because I'm pretty sure they don't play soccer in Poland. Rob, good as always to have you, and we'll talk to you in a bit. We are going to transition from club soccer to a little bit of international. Before we do, Stead, how you doing, brother?
Just pulled a London Sean by talking with the mute on. Doing all right. I do that once a day, actually.
They are not an official sponsor, but I'm loving this right now. I got an entire case of 7 Locks beer.
Oh yeah, 7 Locks is good stuff.
So
Local
I want
brewery,
to give
yeah, they're good stuff. They also do deliveries. They will deliver to your house if you live in Montgomery County.
Yeah, I want to give a huge shout out to Thomas Quinn for delivering on the variety case of 7 Locks beer. I'm enjoying the Indigo Tunnel right now. I've never had that before. This is straight up quality. So to those of you a little bit north of here in Larry and Matt, I will be happy to trade y'all next time I'm up there for some yards. But this is quality stuff I'll bring. I'd be happy to swap you out a 6 for a 6. But yeah, big shouts out to Thomas Quinn for hooking me up with the yards. Instead, be mad I have a case and you don't. All right, we've got to talk some African Cup of Nations, and we're going to welcome in the professor, Dr. Matt Kowalski, to talk a little bit about AFCON. Gentlemen, I don't know what to tell you. The refereeing situation has gotten out of hand. Matt, what in the entire heck was going on with that Mali game? How does the ref get sunstroke and decide to end a game twice?
Yeah, not once, but twice.
Before it gets to time, what was going on with that situation?
I didn't actually watch that match until a friend of mine texted me and was like, you need to get on and watch this right now because this is chaos. This isn't the first time we've seen this, unfortunately, in African football. Was it 2017 Senegal, South Africa, when the ref, and I believe he was banned, it was a World Cup qualifier, right? My initial reaction, and this is sad, but this unfortunately is African football. My initial reaction was this dude is on the take. But then I was like, that doesn't even make sense because if he's on the take for Mali, why did you give the red card? Why did it go to VAR not once but twice? That was terrible. That was terrible. There's no other way around that. It was, I'm sure everyone here remembers Graham Paul, right? 2 yellow cards, no red against Croatia. It was that kind of level.
I don't know, Stead. Prior to this, you and I sat here, we talked about how they needed to have a good tournament. Africa, CAF needed a good tournament. How much does stuff like this impact the viability of the African Cup of Nations?
When you look at it from a perspective of anyone who's outside of the continent, they need to have a very strong tournament. They needed to have a very strong tournament. I thought they made the right decision by having it in the summer because it wouldn't be quite as impactful on the club game. But the problem is that as more and more players from this continent become international stars, the highlight on the ineptitude of that organization is just going to continue to grow. And sadly they don't have the room that UEFA does to make these types of errors. They don't have the room that CONMEBOL does that can just basically just do whatever they want, and people are still going to tune in for those tournaments. Sorry, CAF, you're not there yet. And this is, as long as this tournament is also played during the club season, you don't want fans of European-based teams to solely care about AFCON for the teams that their players are on to lose so they come back home. And if you read reports, I typed in Ghana out of the AFCON today, because that's actually a story. Ghana is a big club. Ghana is a big international team outside of Africa. And the number one story on many publications was simply Thomas Partey is returning to Arsenal. So, which, of course, as an Arsenal fan, yeah, I'm happy he's coming back. But still, that as long as that is the number one story about a team of the stature of Ghana crashing out of a tournament, losing to a small island nation of Comoros, that's why this is bad. That's why this is bad. All everyone is watching this tournament for is, when is the national team for the player that's on my club going to lose so they come back and they play? And that's what's sad. This tournament is full of very, very talented players. I actually watched their Burkina Faso Ethiopia game. And yeah, it was a dud the first 35, 40 minutes, because it's, as we've seen, this is how we've seen African football go at the start of these tournaments. It's very, very, very slow. And we're seeing scoring finally picking up, which is good. But that turned into a pretty entertaining game. It actually did. And you're looking at a country like Ethiopia, who does have some footballing history, but we all know what they're known for when it comes to sport, and that is their dominance in distance running. So to see a country like Ethiopia, who, don't forget, 60 million people live there too. So it's not like they couldn't easily field a solid football team as well. But to see those types of things being fallen by the wayside because you have the situation that happened with the game where the ref called the game early. You had the wrong national anthem being played 3 times before they just gave up. They all have phones. Someone could have just stuck it in there, stuck it on iTunes and just played the song. So these little types of things, AFCON does not have the luxury to make these kinds of mistakes. And it's sad. There is a tinge of classism and some socioeconomic situations that are occurring. There is a little bit of Africa kind of being the third after UEFA and CONMEBOL. So you really don't want this to happen, because you're also going to see more and more and more of these players. They're going to move to Europe. They're going to play in Europe, and their kids are going to end up playing for France. They're going to play for Sweden. They're going to play for Germany. They're going to play for England. And then if they have a brother, or Belgium, and then if they have a younger sibling who's not quite as good, then they'll go back and they'll play for the DRC, or they'll play for one of the other African nations. And the pride in playing for those countries are going to lessen as if this tournament just stays at the same level it is. And that's what I would really, really hate to see moving forward.
But I mean, it's still, let's be honest. We watch it. Mm-hmm. I can talk.
I paid close attention to that tournament for a very long time.
If we did not live in the United States, would we watch the Gold Cup?
No.
And we doggone sure don't watch the Asian Cup.
Well, because it's not good till you get to the last 3 teams who are alive. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't want to see Uzbekistan play Thailand.
For the semifinals,
I'll watch Uzbekistan play Thailand in Sepak Takraw or in a kickboxing championship, but I'm sure not going to watch a football game.
All right, so you're saying you're the third best tournament outside of UEFA and CONMEBOL.
I would,
Yeah, you know what?
I would
That
say
ain't
so.
that ain't a bad place to be. All right, but it's got to clean up its act. That I will give it to
It's a,
Matt.
it's a combination of screwed up factors, though, because there's the perception from the outside that is colored in a lot of stereotypes about African football and Africa. So when there is a referee, again, my mind immediately went, ah, shit, he's on the dome. And I'm like, no, that actually doesn't make sense. It's just incompetence. But a lot of it too, and a lot of these problems also come from the long shadow. I think Armstead, you mentioned socioeconomics, the class. Let's call it what it is.
Colonialism.
Long shadow of imperialism.
Yep.
And until Africa as a continent also, is able to overcome that, so will these problems, these endemic problems.
I agree 1,000%.
Their football. And it's weird, coming as someone who watches football from the post-socialist space, Eastern Europe, there are some eerie similarities in terms of cultures of corruption, in terms of this weird kind of self-hate where it's like anything Western automatically has to be good.
Right.
Even though it's patently not. Go ask Nigerian fans at their last several managers. So, I mean, it really, it's tough. And I agree with you too. I mean, in 2019, when the tournament was in the summer, I thought it was great because it was literally competing against nothing. Now it's like, and I can speak as a Liverpool fan, look, when Egypt lost to Nigeria, I was like, oh, that sucks. But then I was like, Mo might be back quicker. All right, okay. And then it's like, but I shouldn't feel like that. I feel dirty thinking of like that.
Matt, it's been an interesting tournament thus far. Give me your biggest surprise right now. As far as I'm gonna go, you can go. Whoever else wants to go, let me know. But Matt, we'll start with you. Give me your biggest surprise of this tournament thus far.
Before today, I probably would have said Gabon, simply because outside of Aubameyang, who isn't playing and probably isn't going to play for obvious reasons, the only person on that team that I could recognize was a fellow by the name of Kangawa. And the only reason I know he exists is because he played for FC Rostov for like 7 years. But Comoros, I mean, they have set themselves up at least to be one of those 4 third place teams. And for a island nation, I believe this is their first AFCON.
Yes, it is.
That is impressive. That is impressive.
Stead, what's your biggest surprise?
You got to go Malawi. I think you got to go Malawi. I mean, they drew with Senegal. I mean, granted, Senegal hasn't really been firing on the offensive side of the ball, but hey, Malawi's sitting on 4 points, and they've guaranteed moving on to the next stage. And Mike, you discussed last week about, Malawi has always been this team that's lucky to just kind of qualify, like, hey, don't forget about us. There's a really nice lake attached to our country, but
they're landlocked.
The fact that they have a lot of homegrown players who play in country, and then their players that are out of country they're still playing in Southern Africa. A lot of them are playing in South Africa. So this is great. I think this is fantastic. And I haven't seen one of their games yet, but I have seen their highlights. They're just going at it. I like to see a team that plays without really anything to lose and just go out there and have some fun. So I am, aside from hopefully they can tighten up, they can get the bootstraps a little bit tighter as they move forward. But this is shaking up to be a pretty interesting round of 16. So Matt, if you keep watching this, man, you got to come back next week because we got a lot more to talk about this tournament.
We will for sure get him back. Sean, you got anything that stuck out from AFCON for us?
Well, yes, I do. And I'm going to disagree with Stead and Matt. I've watched quite a lot of games because they're on at 4 p.m. UK time. So just above my laptop, I've got a nice big telly, put the football on, off you go. I've found the quality really, really poor. And I'm just talking as a neutral. I'm not necessarily making a judgment against Premiership. But I'm sure I could take 10 clips out of that Malawi game today, where the fullbacks bomb down the wing and they are crossing the ball, and the ball is going as far out as the opposite corner flag. They can't cross balls. Very, very few chances. I didn't find it very exciting. I obviously was watching today because I was hoping that Ghana would get knocked out, hence the reason for the conversation we were saying earlier. And thank God they did get knocked out. But so far, not been particularly impressed. But it's the only football on in the afternoon, so I probably will watch the round of 16 and as it goes on. The team that I think will win will be the one that impressed me the most have been Nigeria.
I was going to go with them, Sean, as my biggest surprise. This was a team that I thought was their best generation. I thought had passed them and had retired. You know, when John Omi Mikel left international football, when Odin Igalo retired, I thought, you know, this was a team that not in the London Olympics finished third, right? That was a team that may have underperformed internationally, but definitely has some quality. That they are sitting on 6 points right now with a defeat of Egypt, I think tells you a lot. I have been largely disappointed by Senegal, but I think, Sean, this goes to what you were saying. I'm with you. The quality of play overall in this particular iteration of the African Cup of Nations has not been that great. We haven't seen goals. We haven't seen service. And I think this has a lot to do with the fact that COVID denied a lot of these players the opportunity to train with each other for the better part of 2 years. So the opportunities for full African squads, those including domestic and European players, to train and play together have been very, very limited. Hence why you see, and perhaps my biggest surprise, I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to lead into this, is this. Algeria. Stead, you and I talked about that. Were you going to say that?
Right there.
Larry, go for it. You go for it.
I was talking about something that I thought was positive. I wasn't talking about anything negative yet.
I said,
Sean, Larry, before you jump in, Sean, let me just preface what I was saying though. What I was getting at, it was blatantly obvious that what I'm hoping is that the quality has improved from match day 1 to match day 3 in all of these groups. The quality has improved. It's definitely not what you would hope it would be from the level of talent that these players have had. But if you just simply look at the output, the quality and of just the viewing of the game and understanding what you're watching, that has improved over the course.
Yeah,
of
I'll give
tournament.
you that. It has improved.
That's what I was getting at. Because I'm definitely not going to sit there and think that Malawi was going to be a talented squad. It's just amazing they got 4 points. That's amazing.
Hey,
but Larry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I want my damn Malawi jersey because they denied that to me before. When they came back and gave me the Zambia jersey because they're like, Malawi's never going to be worth anything. No. We'll give you the Zambia jersey. I want the Malawi jersey now. Yeah.
Larry, go ahead.
Go ahead, man. If you want to steal my, go for it. Talk about Algeria.
Well, the first preface is that AFCON, I can't say much about it. Me being a Mahrez fan, it kind of brought me a little bit paying attention to Algeria. I mean, just they hadn't scored yet. I don't understand how the champs, and they were, as far as I thought, the strongest of their group. You know,
they were on a
40 and then a loss to Guinea. Just it was. I mean, I don't really know what's going on. They've got some name players on their team. They're just more of a shock to me. I'm just at a loss as to what went wrong, what's going wrong. They're just my big surprise. Again, I can't give you much detail on it. I just have paid attention a little bit to them and been surprised.
And for those of you just joining us in the Too Many Guys Soccer Show or soccer in general, you have just witnessed somebody go through the gateway drug that is soccer. We figured out a team that we liked based on a player that we liked and decided to watch a tournament that we wouldn't otherwise like to see them play, and have found out that said team sucks, despite the fact that they won 40 games in a row previously. Because we started paying attention this year, we have now entered into a realm where they suck. Welcome to the world of soccer. When you start watching, and the team that you started watching because they were good prior to you watching now automatically sucks. Larry, don't feel bad. Algeria is by far one of the biggest surprises insofar as they were the defending champs. They were on a 3 or 4 year unbeaten streak.
35.
Yeah, 35 consecutive games. You're right. I will say that it was a bit of a shock that they got past Ghana in 2019. As a complete and utter aside, the World Cup in 2019, Sean, happened when we were on our cruise and I was on my honeymoon, and I was palling around with a gentleman from Nigeria from Algeria watching the game in my Senegal jersey, and I had to buy him a beer afterwards.
We didn't have to pay on the cruise. You bought him?
He doesn't know that. I seem like a benevolent person.
You
at
got
the
him
top.
to pay you. Yeah.
We're still not talking about the fact that happened. No, but I am a little bit surprised. All right. Oh, geez.
I think you have to be, but I would like to, if we're talking about disappointments, circle around.
All right, go for it. I did ask for your biggest surprise. I did not ask for your biggest disappointment. So, Matt, I'll wrap up the AFCON conversation on this. What was your biggest disappointment?
And if we were doing this after the group stages, it'd be more clarity. I have two. Ghana, because they're just straight up out. And for someone who, for a variety of reasons, got into African football, they were the great hope of the continent there for a while. I mean, I think we can all remember 2010, 2014. Those were genuinely fun teams. Their golden generation, the last, crumbs of it are just gone.
Yeah, this team is a long way away from Asamoah Gyan, Suleimantari.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a much different team.
Yet there were
Prince
3
Paul
or
was saying.
4 guys in this squad from those teams, and you were wondering, why are you still there? And the other is, and again, a little bit more clarity, once the group stages are over. I don't want to sound like Larry, where I've picked a team because of a particular player.
Go ahead. That's what we all do.
Egypt's messed up. Egypt's legit messed up. And look, I mean, Salah is not playing with his usual companions, when he plays at Liverpool. But this iteration of Egypt is way better going forward. Why the fuck did you hire Carlos Queiroz? Man is defense. Why is he your manager? And why haven't you figured this out after 2 matches?
Instead,
Well,
no, before we get into this,
oh,
I'm going to foreshadow something.
okay.
Those of you who are of a certain age, instead, possibly Sean, Larry's younger than me, so he would remember. Johnny Carson used to have a guy come on who had character Karnak. I foresee a budding rivalry on the Too Many Guys soccer show in between Matt and Larry because of a variety of reasons that I will explain later. And I need to let y'all know, whether you're watching or listening, and even for those of you who are on the panel with me, I am 100% here for all of it, and you need to be too. I will moderate it as it happens, but there is going to be a budding rivalry in between Professor Matt and Larry the insurance guy that is going to happen, and it's going to be great.
But
is it
going to rival the British Will Chelsea Mike? Because that's a good one.
No. It will become British Will. It will exceed British Will and Coach Matt. But the funny thing is,
That's
also
a big
predict
boost for us there, Matt. We gotta step up. Our game.
I was gonna say, like, will it? Because I have a burn for British Will, even though he's not on the show today.
No, there are any variety of reasons I think this is, but I also know that I'm going to later on have them out for a beer together, and they're going to get along famously and argue with each other, but somehow manage to have fun. This is me predicting the future. British Will is just a troll. Like, in the most social media savvy sense of the word, he's out there to piss you off, and you just need to give him back what he gives to you. So we shall move on. Stead, I'll let you wrap up the discussion on AFCON before we get into Chelsea and Man City with Larry and Mike. What's your biggest disappointment thus far this tournament?
Yeah, I don't have much to add as far as Algeria and Ghana are concerned, and as well, and Egypt as well. I mean that's there's things not right in the water, and and Matt, you made a great point with Gabon as well. I think my biggest disappointment with the tournament, though, is really how the tournament got started. It really is. That was, with the level of media coverage that went in leading into this tournament, I can say it's been more than I can recall at any previous tournament since we've been in this internet age. And to come out and stub your toe as hard as they did, not just from the ineptitude of the officiating and the management, but also, the quality of play the first couple of games. I mean, I'm probably glad we didn't have a show after maybe the first round and a half, because I would have been like, this is this is like watching paint dry. I mean, this is awful. So hopefully, though, that will turn it around. And once we get through, I mean, we can honestly say, like, when the I'm sorry, I'm switching my train of thought here, but when the last Euro went to 24, and the initial quality of that, of also the group stage, it wasn't the best. There were clearly some teams that were taking advantage of the fact that they were of that extra group that got in, and the play wasn't the best, but you saw a huge uptick in quality once that ended, and you had the epic Ian Dart call of Iceland beating England in that game, which was absolutely, that was one of the best calls I've ever heard on at least for soccer on the American side. But hopefully this will also have a similar term where the quality just has to improve, because the quality of the last AFCON also wasn't the best. We were hoping for an exciting final when we had the AFCON final of Man City versus Liverpool, and we had Algeria versus Senegal, and we didn't get it. We got a boring game. So hopefully that will change.
Stan, do you know, does it go to, when it gets to the round of 16, does it go to extra time penalties, straight to penalties? Do we know?
Yes, I believe it's extra time and penalties.
Extra
yes.
time and penalties.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
All right. Matt, hopefully you'll hang around a little bit for the remainder of this. As we bring in a mutual friend of ours, Professor, Chelsea Mike, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great. Good to see Professor Matt again. It's been a while.
Yes, by way of full disclosure, Professor Matt, Mike, and I all went to graduate school together and have spent many an evening talking football together. So it's great. We will do this in person as soon as the opportunity presents itself. So we're going to bring on Chelsea Mike, and we are going to talk with Larry a little bit about that Manchester City Chelsea game. Losers get first ups. Mike, what happened?
They didn't lose.
Boy, you're coming to me first. I don't want to talk about this game. Frankly, Chelsea were just straight up outclassed by Manchester City. Chelsea really have a problem when their back can't link up with the front, right? And that's what happened, especially in the first half of that game, right? Chelsea were getting pinned in, especially when they were going down the side of Maling Sarr. Maling Sarr was he was getting pinned back, and they were struggling to get the ball forward. Meanwhile, City did what they do. They played classic control of the ball. Chelsea were pretty good defensively, right? It took an absolutely world-class strike from Jose Mourinho's least favorite player, Kevin De Bruyne, to win the game. But from almost the get-go, it was pretty clear that Manchester City were going to be the better team out there on the day. And we didn't score, we didn't do anything.
I thought that Chelsea had, throughout the first half, I thought that they had their tactics right, but their execution just let them down.
Yeah, I mean, execution was bad, not only against City, but also today. Callum Hudson-Odoi came into the game and was pretty terrible, right? He messed up a bunch of shots. It seems his touch was getting bad, and I was like, man, this guy's really got to get his sea legs under him, and he never really did. Tuchel talked today about the team being tired. That wouldn't really surprise me. They look very tired. They looked very tired today. They also looked tired against City. They don't have that drive and that pep that they did have. I don't think it's an excuse. I also think Chelsea are struggling right now because they're changing tactics, right? Romelu Lukaku goes to the press, he complains. Thomas Tuchel looks as though he's appeasing Romelu Lukaku. Romelu Lukaku is playing in cup games that he probably shouldn't. And they're also trying to filter the ball, whereas Chelsea before, and now they are missing their wing backs, so they have a big problem there. But they seem to be filtering the ball more towards the middle as they get towards the opponent's box, and that's a departure. And really, where Chelsea are excelling is when their wide players score. Now, I don't know if it's Lukaku's not in great form right now and isn't generating, or if the Chelsea wing players just aren't really good at centering the ball to one central striker. I don't know. Time will tell on that, but it's clear that offensively, where things had been settled, they're not settled anymore.
I was listening to a phone-in after your game over here, Mike, and someone was saying that Lukaku was booed off by Chelsea fans.
I mean, yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me. Like, it's absolutely crystal clear to me that he is being appeased. You know, what's he doing out there against a non-league side in a cup match, right? Like, he's a world-class talent. When he's on, he scores a lot of goals. But if you've got a team of world-class players, I mean, I know he's the king, he's the most expensive, but you've got to be able to play to the strengths of your team and not just the strengths of your greatest player. And, you know, Lukaku is not known for being a good soldier. So, and we'll see how
Larry,
it goes.
I know you're going to have a completely different perspective on this game. I will again say, I thought that Chelsea had their tactics right throughout the first half and created some chances that they couldn't execute. The second half goes all to Man City. And De Bruyne's goal is a complete and total work of art. How did you see this game play out?
I'm actually not in very much opposition to what Mike was saying there. I think that it was a class performance by City. Usually whenever I watch, City against these, the big teams, the Liverpools, the Chelseas, the Uniteds, whenever they're feeling like they want to play, it's kind of like you're just anxious the entire game. I don't know if I'm the only one, but just anxious the entire game. However, with this game, it just seemed like City was able, because of the possession that they had. I would have liked a couple more goals because in typical fashion, City can dominate a game possession-wise and then give up a counter, which is what I think Chelsea was trying to do. But they just weren't executing it, kind of like what we were talking about. The balls up to Lukaku just were constantly were just poor deliveries to him, and there was no setup play, there was no holding play. I think again, it just what I've talked about before is just showing the depth of it. Of their team. I was a little bit surprised with Stones getting the start over Diaz. However, he played excellent. I feel like Lukaku had that one opportunity that Ederson had to make a save on. I don't think there was really too many other opportunities for them to, for Chelsea there. But they played the way each other cautiously. Even though City has all the possession, they didn't really have too many opportunities themselves. Chelsea would shut them down in the last third for any real good opportunities. I think Kepa had a couple big saves. But it was a cautious game, but it was an excellently played game by City where they made very few mistakes. And you have to against a team like Chelsea. But yeah, not having Reece James is a huge loss to Chelsea right now. I feel like just the pace that he brings is big. And I don't know what Lukaku's problem is right now. I don't know if it's got to be mental. I don't think, unless he's playing injured or anything like that, I'm not quite sure. But I was very impressed with the way City played. Not impressed with Grealish. He, again, just has underwhelmed in so many facets. He's so used to being the main player that he's still adjusting to Pep's style and being more of a outside as opposed to everything going through him. But
Yeah.
De Bruyne being De Bruyne, that's just what he does.
Well, I know that it's probably going to be interesting what happens with Grealish, considering that Pep's days appear to be numbered at City from his own admissions. So what happens with him moving forward is probably a conversation for a later podcast. But Chelsea, Mike, look, I think we can all agree that unless City has a colossal collapse, the title race is pretty much over. But Chelsea, Mike, I think even now when you look at it, I think everyone would still consider Chelsea to be the second best team. So where do you think Chelsea goes from here?
Well, our new friend, Professor Matt, might disagree, but first thing they need to do, look, Chelsea every year around this time, they struggle. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if their conditioning isn't good enough or what it is, but Lampard was fired around this time. Mm-hmm. It's just the end of the festive season just never really treats Chelsea well because they're exhausted. Chelsea are not going to win the league. I mean, unless they go on a complete winning run from now until the end and City collapses. But they're in the final of the League Cup. They're still in Europe. There's the Club World Cup coming up, so that we can get patches on our jersey
And some job-saving silverware.
Yeah. and of course they're still in the FA Cup. So I mean there's a lot for Chelsea to win still. But I think they really need to get this forward situation worked out where Tuchel's system and Romelu Lukaku work, and they're experimenting, and they're going to find the answer, but it's going to be hard to watch in the meantime.
So, all right. We only have a few minutes left. Anyone have anything else they care to add about the Chelsea situation? It looks like now we're having a few competitions going on in the Premier League. You have the top four race between West Ham, Arsenal, Tottenham, Manchester United, and now it appears Wolves is creeping up in there as well. And then you have the I guess the most useless title is who's going to finish second. And it's between the teams ranked second and third, and I doubt anybody's going to catch them. But why don't we put a bow on this? If anyone has any last jump shots they want to try to take a shot at.
I just have a question for Chelsea Mike here. So,
and Sean, I see you. You can go ahead afterwards.
So coming from the Bundesliga, obviously we all keep track of the German players. So what's the situation with Antonio Rudiger? I think he's out of contract this year. Are they going to try to bring him back, or are his days numbered?
Well, I think everybody at Chelsea wants him back. I'm sure part of him wants to play, in Munich. But he's going to be one of the most coveted defensemen in the world, and why not maximize what you can get out of that? I certainly would. But every indication I have is that Chelsea are going to fight incredibly hard to bring him back. He's really important on the defense. I mean, the defense would be worse off. And actually, Andreas Christensen is also out of contract at the end of the year. And if we were to lose the two of those, we'd have to go shopping.
I have a similar question, Mike. Timo Werner, what is this? Are you guys going to try to move him on during the summer? I mean, he's just there and fast. That's all we know.
Yeah. So it's actually a little bit more complicated now, right? Because in some ways, Lukaku's best offensive performances recently have been around Werner.
Yeah.
Them playing against Tottenham, they played a 4-2-2-2 essentially, and used Werner. So again, it's about this experimentation of what works. Timo Werner might very well be a guy who stays, whereas like Havertz and Pulisic leave. I don't know, but it's going to be about what works best with Lukaku. I mean, they're stuck with Lukaku for a while unless they want to eat a lot of money. So, and Chelsea, unlike other rich sides, Chelsea really don't like to do that.
And they've gotten a lot better at being more financially responsible as of late.
Yeah, Chelsea are one of the few big sides that actually, or I should say billionaire-owned sides that turn profit.
Sean, go ahead and jump in, because I think you wanted to make a point, and then we will go ahead and move on to the
You made a comment, Stead, that you said second and third was all over, but if you use the Tottenham gauge with their 27 games in hand, which they reckon they can then win the league We're only 9 points behind Chelsea,
That's
and we've
true.
got 3
Hey,
games in hand. So
and
there we
Sean,
go.
Lowe's did bring that up and said, yes, with all the games in hand, we're actually going to finish third if we run the table. But then he also
Yes.
had a wry smile to
Did
let
he?
us
I
all
missed-
know
I
that
missed
that's
that bit.
probably not going to happen.
Yeah,
they're going to be
you-
playing Premier League games with about 2 days rest, and it's going to be against. I mean, it's not like playing against the big four of old. Now it's like to play against anybody in the top 10. You can easily get kicked in the teeth. So, Spurs, good luck.
As they'll find out tomorrow, as they'll find out tonight here. Anyway,
All right,
against
Mike,
Leicester.
it's that time. Give us the updates from the lower leagues. This is and just for London, Sean, make sure we include Exeter in this.
And they won recently, right? They got a win, right?
Yes, but on the whole, it's not been a good month.
No, they were on a big slide there. Fell out of the playoffs.
I say one thing real quick for the lower leagues. Can we get someone to make like a graphic with a little tune that says like, and now the lower leagues, kind of something like that?
We'll get Celtic Cam on that.
I have a
what I was actually going to do was say we're going to use the video, Larry, of you doing that to introduce the lower league report. Yes, we're going to use that. We're going to use that GIF to introduce the lower league report. Now, featuring Chelsea Mike with the lower league report.
I'm gonna have a T-shirt made. Lower league report, bottom of the show, top of our hearts.
All right, Mike. Before we get into this, you can appreciate this T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
For those of you listening, I've been wearing a shirt that says FEFF, this John, Ben Franklin.
Yes. And one day you'll be old enough to know what that means.
Yes.
We in Philadelphia do, although I'm not in Philadelphia right now. Let's go into the lower league report. I wanted to talk about a couple of things, right? The first thing, I'm only focusing on the championship tonight because there's a lot going on in the championship. League Two, Forest Green are dominating. League One, Chaos is dominating. So let's just put them aside right now. I wanted to bring up a couple things that are really important right now because we're in the transfer window. First of all, I wanted to talk about Blackburn Rovers, right? Blackburn, of course, and this is the most important thing I'm going to say on the show today. So everybody listen up. And this is an important reminder. This is important football knowledge.
Okay,
Blackburn Rovers.
Kofi's paying attention.
Blackburn Rovers have won as many Premier League titles as Liverpool. Right. That's the most important thing you'll learn in the show today. But
Leicester.
Yeah, true. So Blackburn lost 7-0 to Fulham on November 3rd, and they haven't lost since. They're 10 games unbeaten. And much of it is due to the strength of their key forward, Ben Bird and Diaz. Now, Ben Bird and Diaz, if you don't know the story, he was an English international, U21, very unremarkable. But his mother is Chilean. And so fans of the game Football Manager found this out, and they pressured the Chilean FC to call him up. He did. He scored 3 times in Copa America, changed his name to Ben Brereton Diaz, because he was just Ben Brereton before when he was an English international. He's Ben Brereton Diaz now for Chile. Scored 3 times in Copa America, really made a name for himself. Chileans very proud, like him a lot. But now he's 20. He scored 20 times in the championship. He's the second leading scorer behind Alexander Mitrovic. And he is also out of contract at the end of the year. Now, the club have an option to keep him from a year. So he couldn't go on a free transfer in the next window. But his goals are creating a bunch of interest. And apparently Newcastle are really, really into it because they really, really need a striker. And West Ham are said to be in it. Seville said that they would wait until next year, but they're interested. And actually, the betting odds favorite of landing Ben Brereton Diaz, which there is a betting line for this, are Brighton and Hove Albion. Who could use some more firepower up front. So I'm gonna put this question out to all of you guys. If you're the manager of Blackburn Rovers, you've moved up to third in the table, and you're level on points with Bournemouth for second. Ben Brereton Diaz has been known his whole career as kind of an underachiever until something just clicked. So the value on selling him has never been higher. You're in a promotion race. You have a guy who next year could be worth nothing. What do? Do you sell Ben Brereton to one of the Premier League sides who are looking, or do you hold on to him knowing he might become a valueless asset in pursuit of the Premier League? What do you guys think? I personally would stick because I love lower league football, and I love when teams get promoted, especially teams with as many Premier League titles as Liverpool, that the championship side Blackburn Rovers have. But what do you guys think?
You mean in this transfer window or the summer?
No, right now. Sell
Right
him
now.
now. His value is the highest right now. Do you sell now, or do you hold on and try to gain automatic promotion?
Well, who've they got behind him? Who've they got to replace him in the club? Who's the second number 9 at Blackburn?
Let's say he's average. He's an average championship player.
Who? The guy behind your man? Right.
Yes.
What? I don't know.
Tell them get the money.
Get the money. Yeah, everyone's skint over here, Mike.
Yeah.
Apart from Chelsea, obviously.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their financial issues. Get the money, move on, walk off and declare victory.
He's still very young too, so get the money.
The reason I say take the money too is because if you were in first place, it's a different story, because then you're going to get settled into the Premier League. You're going to get that EPL cash, but it's not guaranteed they're going to get promoted. So take the money while you can and run. And also, it'll be better for him too. It's going to be better for his career. He's going to love the opportunity to play the EPL.
Rob, we're running low on time, but that's a really good transition. I want to talk a little bit more.
Just so you know, the COVID abides. He agrees.
Get the money.
Get the money.
Dude, COVID's all about that money.
Yes, he agrees. If he had a neck, he would nod, but he doesn't because he's
just
just
kind
a
of
big,
floats up in it.
he's just a big stuffed basketball looking thing.
Yeah. So actually, but Rob raises a really good point, and one that I'd like to go deeper into this topic at some point. But West Brom, right? They brought over Daryl DK, right? Daryl DK is a great fit for that team. They need goals. He scores goals. And I think that they're going to be a better team with him. They're sitting, just below Blackburn in 5th, I believe, right now. It's either 5th or 6th. But what you're saying about take the money, right? Daryl DK played really well for Barnsley last year, right? Like, he was a hero. Barnsley went to the playoff final. They were one game away, they were in the playoffs last year. This year, they're currently sitting at the bottom of the championship, and that's really important. And I'll tell you why in a second. So Orlando wouldn't sell DK, and they said they wanted 20 million. They ended up selling him for 9.5. And I know that Barnsley were up at least 12. So Orlando got DK for the season, but they lost $3 million. Orlando didn't, light up the league. Take the money, man. You're right. Take the money. We'll talk about Daryl DK, Barnsley, and what it means for West Brom in a second. But the biggest story in the lower leagues over the last week has certainly been the rapidly intensifying situation at Derby County. You know, when hurricanes go from like category 1 to category 5 in like a day, it feels like the actual chances of Derby County being expelled from the Premier League increased tremendously this week. What happened, just to give you a background, Derby had some financial fair play issues related to the fact, as it has come out, that you know, their owner Mel Morris had a dream to take his team to the Premier League, and apparently wasted about $200 million of his own money trying to do this. So they went into administration and were docked 21 points. Now, I said before that Barnsley were at the bottom of the championship. Derby County, despite having been knocked 21 points, this week went above Barnsley in the table. So while their off-field problems have been continuing, and their off-field problems are tremendous still, the league has said that if they don't have a plan in place to fund the team for the whole year, on February 1st, they will be expelled from the league. The Derby estimates they need $5 million to stay afloat. They have been selling off a bunch of players and free transfers, trying to get out of that. They might sell their captain, Tom Lawrence, and this is pretty heartbreaking, for £8 million to cover their debt.
But one of the major issues with Derby right now is there are 3 potential bidders for that club, but none of them will sanction buying the club because there are outstanding lawsuits from Middlesbrough and Wycombe that, while we all think Wickham, all right, thank you for the correction on the pronunciation, Wickham and Middlesbrough. And while we all don't think that they are legitimate lawsuits, no one wants to put themselves in a position where they could potentially inherit not only the debt, which requires the buyer to pay off almost 80 million, or has to deal with paying off almost $80 million in debt, but then these potential lawsuits on top of it, right? So
Right.
Wickham said, or Middlesbrough, not Wickham, Middlesbrough said they would be open to negotiating a settlement. So I think we need to put that one in there, because that is a lot of what is inhibiting the potential sale of Derby County right now.
Right. It's a big problem. And a lot of it though has to do with the league. The league wants that resolved before they really let Derby do anything. Derby's asked the courts this week to try to press it up. There was actually a member of MPs today to try to press it up on the Derby County situation. So, I mean, it's situation critical. I think at the end of the day, they'll come up with the money. They won't be expelled from the league, buried, if you will. You know, it's an extreme penalty, right? They just eliminate you from the records. You're just gone. And it would be a shame. First of all, Derby County are a founder of the Football League. They're one of the very few teams to do that. They have been in the Football League since its very creation, never relegated from it. So, I mean, this is, in, you know, 2-time league winner, FA Cup winners. This is a team with pride. They're also the only league team in the whole of Derbyshire. So I mean, they're a big regional.
Don't tell Nottingham Forest that.
Well, Nottingham or Nottinghamshire. I mean,
don't tell Nottingham Forest that they're the only league team in the region, because they'll be very upset with that.
But so here's the thing, right? I mentioned that they're probably going to have to sell their captain, Tom Lawrence, right?
Former Manchester United player.
Yeah, there you go. So, but while this has been going on, Wayne Rooney, let's talk about Wayne Rooney, right? Because Wayne Rooney is pretty much the glue holding together Derby County right now, right? Because in taking seriously my role as lower league reporter, I've been following this very actively. I've been reading the Derbyshire News, and the people there are really gloomy. Every time they sell a player, it's like, this is the end.
Have you ever been to Derby, Mike? Have you ever been to Derby?
I've never
been to Derby.
No,
it's a very sad fucking town. Full of very sad.
I mean,
there we go.
Is it?
I live in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania.
I've heard Blackburn's quite the dumbest.
The Derbyshire Telegraph has a readership of about 130. So there we go. So you've done very well to find it.
Yeah, I know. I've made them. I've increased I've been statistically influential on them this week. Then, but I just want to mention that Tom Lawrence is the captain of Derby. He's an integral part there, along with Wayne Rooney. Wayne Rooney has been keeping this team together. They have been docked 21 points, and if they were to do this, if they were to escape termination, administration, and relegation in the same year, I think that would be probably the greatest escape in history.
Without a doubt, Wayne Rooney deserves.
Although, what was his name? Neil, the guy who's just been left Middlesbrough. He took over.
Warnock?
Yeah, Neil Warnock. Did he not save Rotherham, who were also docked a load of points? Sorry, you were just about to say that.
Not to this level where
it wasn't 20, but it was
21.
A lot of points.
It was a lot of points. We are looking at a Portsmouth, more than Portsmouth level docking of points, enough to send. It's a death penalty for any club. It should, and it would be really crappy to see Derby, who were a Premier League club, 14, 15 years ago. Now, they weren't good, but they were there. They have trophies. It would be really crappy. All right. Mike,
can I just finish with one story?
One thing before we get out of here, because we're running overtime.
No.
Unfortunately, Povey's got to go to bed.
Yeah. One very quick thing. So I went to a conference last week in just north of Chester, about 4.5-hour drive from where I live. Got there and noticed that got to the hotel, beautiful hotel, Carden Park, if you want to look it up, Carden, Carden Park Golf Hotel. And where I was staying was in another little bed and breakfast up the road, which was on the road to Wrexham. I noticed Wrexham was only 8 miles away. So it was probably the closest that I was ever going to get to Wrexham, considering I've never forgiven them for that Mickey Thomas free kick all those years ago. However, said that, in the morning, a cab driver arrived in a Liverpool shirt. This was on Thursday night, so obviously we got the draw at Anfield. He's in a Liverpool shirt. I start taking the piss out of him. He says, I like Liverpool, but really, I'm a Wrexham fan. So the amazing thing is what's the guy's name? Ryan, the man that bought Wrexham? The one who's done Deadpool?
Yeah. Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. Is that right?
Yes.
So they bought Wrexham.
Yes.
So the 2 points of the story. One, he told me that Wrexham have an average home gate of 10,000 for a non-league team. They take 2,500 to every away game, and they've had to do that because there's no spectators in Wales. So as soon as they're playing an English team, they just
jump onto 50 buses. But the most important thing is that Rob stays in that hotel. And apparently he brought over Danny DeVito with him last time. They take the whole top floor of the hotel. So if ever you want to go and mix with the Hollywood stars in the lower leagues, your section, Mike, then head off to Carden Park Hotel when Wrexham have a home game.
All right, Rob
There's my story.
McElhenney.
That's a great story. That's awesome.
Yes, stars of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Gentlemen, we've got to get out of here. It is time for kids and pundits and stuffed diseases.
We'll see you in the cup final, Mike. We'll see you in the cup final.
It has been
We're pulling for you.
It has been a great show. I want to thank the Professor Matt Kowalski making his debut tonight. Great job, my brother.
Pleasure to be here, man. Pleasure to be here.
Celtic Cam and Los, who were on earlier. Larry, the insurance guy, for coming on and talking a little bit of City with us. And to Byron Rob, London Sean, and Chelsea Mike, thank you very much. And of course, last but not least, my partner Stead. Stead. Oh, and Covey. We could not have had a show without Covey.
By the way, you want to watch a match with some drama this week? 7:30, Derby County, Nottingham Forest. It is the Derby rivalry this weekend. It's all on the line for Derby. It's going to be fun. Watch it. ESPN Plus.
So we will be watching that amongst other things. We want to thank Covey for coming and joining us and staying up late. Gentlemen, it has been a boatload of fun. I would say that we need to do this again next week. We did all right this week. We'll do better next week. For London Sean, Byron, Rob, Chelsea Mike, the Professor, Matt Kowalski, Larry the Insurance Guy, Celtic Cam, and Los Rosali, and of course, producer Stead. I'm Mike, and this has been the Too Many Guys Soccer Show.